1450 The Hall. Congratulations to Tom from Feeding Hills.
Yeah, we were supposed to do that sooner.
Tom from Feeding Hills. What did I make him do, Buster?
You made him do nothing. I made the calls actually work a little bit.
I made him call 736-1450, and he claimed a $50 gift certificate
See?
to Piccadilly Pub in West Springfield, courtesy
That's
of
why
50/50
you're the
Fridays
Democrat.
on ESPNSpringfield.com. I'm a Democrat because
You give
I'm right.
away things for free. I make them earn it.
Ooh, wow.
There you go.
I saw what you just did.
Yeah, see what I did?
That's the first clever thing you've done in a while. You're like Rick Perry. Joining us in studio right now. You hear even Rick Perry last night did the Tebow thing? Rick Perry last night went all Tebow on us.
Hey, jump on the bandwagon.
He's desperate, is what he is. It's really sad. Dave Seronick is a fantasy football blogger at rotoinfo.com. You can read his columns every week before you decide who to start and who to sit. And he joins us in studio for the first time ever.
Yes.
So, Dave, thanks so much for coming into the studio today.
No, guys, thanks for having me.
It's did the interns? I know the interns kind of rule their dungeon in weird ways. You were able to sneak by all the scariness.
It was unspeakable what happened
to
get back here.
Well, then let's not.
Now, forgive me. I usually pay very close attention to what you talk about. I have to be completely honest. I really don't care what you have to say about fantasy football today because I'm out and I really don't.
But Buster had a really good idea, though, Dave. Let me throw this out there for all the people. And I don't know. I mean, you're being a fantasy football blogger yourself. I know that you're probably plugged in more than we are. Do you see a lot of... Buster proposed this week that he and we're not in the same league. We've never been in the same league. To keep the interest going...
Damn right, not my league.
Yeah, I know. To keep the interest going, we're going to have a little exhibition game this week and maybe put a little something on it. We're going to go with... we're going to do it out by hand as if it's 1989 again when I was in my first league. But we are going to have an exhibition game. You ever done anything like that?
No, it's actually...
Because you're always in the playoffs, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, and I've been around since there was technology, so...
What's that supposed... I don't even know.
He can't do the simple math.
Well, Dave, it was great having you in. Hey, we're going to do a little different style segment this week. Usually we do some more substantive questions where we ask you, some... What do you do about this guy and that guy? But at this point in the year, a lot of people have either a marquee name with a terrible matchup or a lesser-known name with a potentially groundbreaking matchup, a potential winner matchup. And this is, for most people, semifinals week. Mm-hmm. So we're going to start with quarterback. I'm going to give you an either-or. Would you go either? See what I did there? Either or either?
That's copyrighted.
It's so I'm not upsetting half of our audience.
My attorney, Buttons Fournier, is on the line.
Your attorney's name is Buttons. I think I win. At quarterback, would you take either Aaron Rodgers against Kansas City in a game he figures maybe even to be completely out of in the fourth quarter, or do you go against Houston's T.J. Yates against Carolina, a game we could argue the Texans need to really win to make sure Yates has his rhythm and a Carolina defense that's letting up an awful lot of points against quarterbacks?
Yeah, this is a really tricky decision, but one of the things a lot of people are looking over, and I actually did myself, is that the Kansas City defense is actually not as bad as people are giving them credit for. They're actually the 14th ranked defense in the NFL, and as far as fantasy goes, they're 11th in points allowed to QBs, with allowing just under 14.
Really?
I mean, are they going to beat the Packers? Probably not. Will Rodgers likely be pulled? Possibly. But then you have a guy like T.J. Yates, who's come in and done exactly what he did at UNC. He's winning. No matter, it hasn't been ugly. I'm sorry, it has been ugly sometimes. It hasn't always been pretty, but he's gotten it done.
There's two guys behind him help, don't they?
Yes.
Having the best running backs in football right now really help.
Yeah, and that's actually one disadvantage you can actually say he has, where they could take over the game. Where, I mean, we're talking, he had his first 300 passing yard game last week. It was impressive against a pretty good Bengals defense, but they were playing catch-up. He was forced to air the ball out, and it does not seem likely that he will be in that same predicament this week against Carolina, who, outside of Cam Newton, they don't have a shot at winning anything.
Yeah, Julius Peppers ain't walking through that door, right?
So, with Carolina's terrible defense, and actually the Texans, who will likely do a better job at shutting down Cam Newton than other defenses, because they're actually the #1 ranked defense in the NFL. So, expect them to go up early, and even if they're not, expect Foster to play a huge role in this game, because if you're the Texans, you want to give Yates the confidence, like you said, but if you got to rely on someone between Yates and Foster's going to win that battle 10 out of 10 times.
That's true. So which way do you go?
So my verdict on this, I'm actually going to go with Rodgers, even if he's pulled.
All right. Well, at running back, we've got the playoffs, so I gotta focus on what I did do right. But do you go with Redskins Ray Hilo against the Giants, or would you take somebody like Michael Bush against Detroit?
Yeah, since filling in for McFadden, who also does not seem likely to return this week.
Or maybe the season?
Or the season, yeah. It's actually...
It's a bizarre situation in Oakland, right? Wasn't it that first... I feel bad for McFadden owners. Can I put that out there?
Yeah, me too.
McFadden owners who drafted him likely... He was like a 1.4, 1.5 draft pick, right? I mean, this was a guy...
One of the points of handcuffing right there.
Completely. And he went out, and we're talking about a guy, they were like, well, give him a week. He'll be back in a week. That was 7 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's almost as bad as Peyton Manning's guy, who said he might be back and then...
Completely.
But, I mean, he is facing the Lions this week, who, despite their 26th overall 27th rush defense, allowing 136 yards a game on the ground. I think they're better than that. They're actually, despite the yardage they allow, they're the 9th overall fantasy defense against the run. Sue's back this week. He's likely to be very angry. That D-line...
That's different
You
from when.
You don't like him when he's angry.
I mean, that D-line, expect them to get after him, to shut him down in the backfield. He still could have a pretty good game. I mean, he's going to be used, in the back, catching the ball, running the ball. But then you have a guy like Halou, and I hate depending on a Shanahan running back.
Yep.
You never know who's going to get the ball.
So true.
But
Stupid Mike Shanahan.
after 13 weeks, it seems as if Shanahan finally got his guy. 3 straight games with over 100 rushing yards. In those games, 436 yards of total offense, 2 touchdowns. Going against the Giants this week, Halou is, who are 27th in the NFL versus rushing, and 23rd in fantasy, allowing over 17 points a game to opposing running backs. So I'm going to give the nod to Halou, but I really wouldn't be surprised if Bush himself had a good game.
Yeah, and Bush seems to be ready to do that again, because the past couple of weeks I feel like Bush has been a 60-yard guy, 70-yard guy. It's really bizarre. The Oakland Raiders right now are a tough team to figure. Finally, let's go wide receivers, and maybe some underappreciated fantasy superstars. New Orleans has a guy in Marcus Colston who I consider not only one of the most underappreciated superstars in football, but also maybe one of the most underappreciated fantasy wide receivers of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Minnesota's Percy Harvin, who of course has his history of disappearing and medical issues and all that good kind of stuff, and the
Major talent, though.
Major talent. So you've got Percy Harvin against the Saints, or the Saints' Marcus Colston against the Vikings.
Yeah, with Harvin, you talk about his disappearing at the beginning of the season. 2 games out of the first 10 weeks where he put up double-digit fantasy points.
Sure.
Wasn't doing it. However, these past 4 weeks have been what owners of Harvin everywhere have been expecting. 4 straight games of double-digit fantasy points. He over those 4 games, he has 5 receiving touchdowns, 339 receiving yards, and he also has 91 rushing yards, which a lot of people, including myself, maybe did not notice.
He's absolutely always a threat to get one of those end arounds, isn't he?
Yeah, and on top of that, he's been spectacular in the return game, where he's always a possibility to break that off for a touchdown, which would be huge points to anyone who has him. Some people are worried with AP returning this week that it could take away from his targets, but in my opinion, that's going to do nothing but further his chances, because when you add arguably the league's best running back in the game, that changes the defense's scheme. So, and again, they're facing the Saints, who have a suspect defense. At times can be great, at times shaky. But now they're going to want to key in on Peterson. Not let him break off that big run, because we all know what he can do. I mean, I expect more of the same from the past for the past 4 weeks from Harvin, because especially with the Saints 30th in the NFL in pass defense and 26th in fantasy, allowing, I think it's about 12 points a game to an individual receiver. But then on the other hand, the guy he's going against, Marquise Colston, numbers really haven't been there this year, but the consistency has. He consistently gets targets, receptions. He would have more points this season if it were not for Jimmy Graham, who has been taking all of his red zone targets. But despite missing 3 games, Colston this year is still second on the team in receiving yards, 3rd in targets, and 3rd in receptions. Now, also, getting back to Graham, he's been hurt the past couple of weeks with back spasms. If he's not 100% to go, I mean, the Saints will play him regardless, but if he's not 100% and maybe has to take some time out, that could be great for Colston and his owners. However, if Graham is good to go, it could hurt his production. So I'm going to give the nod to Harvin, but I would check Graham's status before Sunday's game.
All right, so let's recap the either-or portion. Dave Seronick from RotoInfo.com, fantasy football blogger, read his columns every week before he decides who to start and who to sit. At quarterback, he takes Rodgers over Yates, but it's close. At running back, he likes Roy Helu over Raiders' Michael Bush, but he wouldn't be surprised if Michael Bush goes nuts. And he likes Marcus Colston.
I like Percy Harvin.
He likes Percy Harvin.
I like Marcus Colston because I'm going to beat you with him. He likes Percy Harvin.
Look who I got wide receiver, pal. Percy Harvin.
How awesome is that? Hey, Dave, you can come back anytime, and we really appreciate you coming down. And for all of the losers in our listening audience who are in the playoffs, I hope you enjoy your weekend or whatever. Have a great Tebow weekend, and we will speak with you soon.
All right, guys.
Average Joe Show, ESPN Radio 1450.
The Hall.